Hello, everyone. It's Thursday. Welcome, welcome, welcome. In case you're not tracking, this is the mystery event. So, from the comments and suggestions of the community, so we took that into account from both Discord, LinkedIn, in our what else? Oh, YouTube and the YouTube channel. And we got a handful of suggestions. Not as many as I would hope. Y'all have been slacking, right? But we got a few. So the winner of this was who was it? Who was it? From the Discord community. Speaking of, if you haven't been in there yet, join our community. We actually had a lot of folks join us last week. But Ed Davila has asked for us to do some Splunk stuff, and he's named she has named a particular room benign. So that is what we will be doing today. On the back end of this, per usual, we have a resume review that's going to happen. So we've had another member of the community send over the resume. We'll give them some feedback to hopefully get them a little bit of positive movement in their job hunt. So those are all the cool things going on today. So if you're joining, buckle up, hang on tight. Let's rock and roll. You'll also notice that this session is a little bit less than it has been in the past. So I have dropped some of these down to about an hour, which should help people be able to hop on there a little bit more, make them a little bit more digestible too. But let me know in the comments. Let me know in the Discord channel if you want me to bring them back up to 2 hours, or if the 1 hour is good enough for you while you carry on your day. What else? What other announcements have we had? I have made a lot of updates to my GitHub portfolio. So for folks who've been in chat, we've been talking about building a portfolio where you can share your lab work, all the cool stuff you're doing. That portfolio is where you can do that at. I'm going to templatize what I have and provide it to folks. One of the cool things that I added this week to it is the ability to have kind of a skills matrix of sorts at the top. And if you click that, it'll show all the evidence that supports your claims of having that skill. So I thought that was pretty cool. It's something I wish was out there somewhere, especially as a hiring manager, where I could easily see where's the evidence for this person's skill. They say they can do SIM. Where's the skill? Do you have a cert? Do they have lab time? What do they got? So that's one of the cool things that is in there. More updates to come between this week's live stream and next week. So we'll do some stuff there. Next week, if you're not tracking, so this will be the last update of the day, we'll have a guest. So stay tuned of who that guest will be, but they will be a professional in cybersecurity. So a chance for you to ask questions of someone else besides me. And we'll either do some live demonstrations on here, like them talking through and showing us what they do, or maybe we'll do something fun like a try hack me room or something together, and we'll just talk shop while we're working through that. Let me know what type of interview style you would like. We can definitely accommodate that, but we'll see which one of my friends would love to hop on here for the first one of these. They're all very, very good at what they do, so I'm happy and grateful whenever they're willing to share some of their time, especially after working all day with you folks. So with that, let's party. Who's ready to party? Say hello in chat if you're just joining us. If you're new, say hello. Hey, I'm new. And yeah, if you haven't shared your Try Hack Me handle, let me know. I'll follow you on Try Hack Me so we can keep up with you and see how you're doing. There's someone I just followed as of last week, and they're killing it. They're just going all over the place with their Try Hack Me stuff. All right, let's share. Here we go. Window. There we go. Callie. So for those, let's get this situated here. So for those who don't know what my setup is, I'll go ahead and explain it just in case you want to do it this way. So with Hack the Box and Try Hack Me, I have my own Kali VM. Kali's free. You can download it. VMware is also free. You can download it for free. And so I just install Kali as a VM in VMware, and I take a snapshot in case I break something, which you will inevitably do. And then I just start it up every time I do a live stream. So it helps me work in an environment where I can break stuff. I don't feel too bad because I have a clean snapshot, right? And I have something I'm familiar with, and that's persistent. So with some of these other boxes, like you see the attack box, they're not persistent. You'll lose all the stuff that you did in there, and you'll lose some of the fun learning stuff you have with having your own VM situation. So just something to keep in mind there. So VMware, Kali, you're good to go. And then you just run OpenVPN to log into the environment. Wow, I'm actually center of the frame mostly today. Man, I must be getting kind of good at this thing. I don't know. All right, so Ed Davila, this one is for you, buddy. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for suggesting this. So this is a room. He just finished a pathway, one of the pathways in Trihecme. I don't remember which one. Feel free to throw it in chat if you're here. And he's like, I really want someone to talk through this room. Maybe there's some things that you know from real life that you can translate for me versus me just asking ChatGPT or what name your insert your AI. So that is what we're going to do for Mr. Davila today. Now, let's go ahead and get started. So again, this room is benign, and what we'll have to do is get it started up so that we can start working it. So it looks like this is one I've already done. So we'll start the machine, and I'm not going to go through this 100% by the book, right? So his goal for this live stream is for me to really provide additional context of like a real practitioner today, how they look at this type of stuff so that he can start changing the way he's thinking about SOC investigations, which is a really, really good idea for those of you out there who are looking at SOC as a career path, is you need to start instead of thinking about everything as a student, right? Hey, I don't know anything. Hey, I'm just trying to memorize some stuff. And think about it more like a practitioner, right? You have to make that transition at some point from, hey, I'm just trying to memorize stuff to, hey, I identify as this role. I am a SOC analyst and I'm continuing to refine my tradecraft. So definitely something to think about. And you can do that a lot. One, by just doing it a lot, right? Getting your hands dirty. And then asking people, how would you do this? How would you do that? And it should help you mature your thinking and make that transition a lot faster for you out there. So really, really good stuff. Really good question for us. So let's go ahead and pop this in here. Oh, it might tell us, well, we need to be on the VPN first. First of all, so you always do have to reset your VPN. If you suspend your VMware session, you will have to restart it just because. I don't know what the technical details of why it breaks, but it does. All right, so that should maybe get us where we want to go, unless it's sitting on a different port. Let's see. Before moving forward, deploy the machine via at blah, blah, blah. The machine takes 3 to 5 minutes to start up. Okay, so it's taking a little bit to start up. And I don't know what port this is actually running on. So learn more about Splunk. I'm reading this because I've learned over time with y'all that I sometimes just surge through stuff and I don't pay attention, and then I miss stuff. And then we have a very sad time because I have to backtrack and figure things out. Aha, unencrypted. How about that? Shame, shame, shame. No, that's fine. So for those of you, what I did, I was trying this on the normal HTTPS, so secure S is for secure. It didn't work. And then I removed the S so that it just utilized normal unsecured HTTP, and it worked. So if you're in the same boat, just take the S off and try it. It should be running on port 80, but it should also automatically take you to that. So hopefully you catch that. Hello, and say hello in chat if you're just joining us. I see we got a couple of people in there. Hello, thanks for joining. What's on your mind this week? All right, while people are chatting, let's see what we have going on here. So it says one of the clients' IDS indicated a potential suspicious process execution, indicating one of the hosts from HR department was compromised. Some tools related to network information gathering scheduled tasks were executed, which confirmed the suspicion. Due to the limited resources, we could only pull the process execution logs with event 4688. Remember that event ID, folks. If you're looking at SOC, this is a very, very common event ID, and it may show up on an interview somewhere down the line for you. And ingested them into Splunk with the index win event logs for further investigation. So we have a pretty narrow scope investigation here, because I think it's saying that we only have 4688s, which is tough. Yes, process execution, process creation are pretty good logs, but typically we have a lot more in an environment, but we'll see what we'll get into here. So it's just asking us some basic stuff here. How many logs were here between ingested from the month of March? So we could just specify time. So like, let me back up for a second here. So for those of you watching right now, how many of you have worked in Splunk? So I don't want to break this down too narrow, but I do want to make sure I'm helping folks. And also, who's following along? Let's have some people follow along today. We'll give some folks some time to chat. But just to give you kind of orient folks here, especially if you're watching this later, we have the search bar. This is, you can think about this like as Google, right? We have Google, but we also have the time, or have the ability to manipulate time for Google. So we're essentially Googling all the logs that are out there, and we're using time to adjust how many logs we have to look at. So for one of the things, it said, hey, we only want to look at the month of March. Well, that's cool. That's pretty easy. What we can do is we can just specify, well, one, we have to see what year, March 2022. So that's a very, very long time ago. So we can say 3 and modify this to 1, 2022. And then let's see, 2022, 3, and we'll do 31. This should encompass all of it, and it does. So we see 000 on the first, so that's the very beginning. And then 24, which is military time for the very last hour of the day. So we should be good there. And what we can do is just do a star. So star in most sims, most searching things just means wildcard. It says, hey, give me everything. I don't want you to do any sort of filtering. I want you to do it. Just give me everything, which is fine in some contexts. You definitely don't want to do this search in a real environment. You're going to come back with way too much stuff. But what we can see is we have 13,959 events, which match our thing here. Let's talk about time a little bit more and things that translate into the real world. So typically what we may do is do things like, it's asking us to look at very specific things, and we use that to guide our search. So for instance, right here, we're looking at potential suspicious process execution. Cool. So we know 4688s, but that's also the only thing we have. In a real environment, we may have authentication logs, firewall logs, you name it, type of logs, we have them in here. So instead of having, maybe 13,000 events for an entire month, we may have 13 trillion events. So time makes a huge difference. The quickest way to cut down on the amount of data is to reduce the time frame. So that is a huge point here. Reduce the time frame. And then if you know any additional details that help you shrink that amount of data you have to go through, even better. So that's why typically a wildcard search isn't that great. Typically, we're going to at least have a user or host name to guide these efforts. And that's simply because this is a Windows host-based event, 4688. So some host somewhere, and then there's always going to be a user involved in this as well. So in this case, we have a handful of users. We could look at James, Moen, maybe, Katrina, the Hurricane, Haroon, Chris, Diana, Belle, Amila, Deepak. So we do have names that we could utilize. We don't have a host yet, but it does say process execution indicated one of the hosts from the HR department. So one of these 3 people's hosts more than likely. So part of our investigation would be like, okay, let's identify all the hosts within HR. And We don't really know off the top of our head. We don't know how to differentiate, but we do know these 3 users are in HR, and we could use that as a starting point. So we could say something, okay, we have all of March, and we can say, we'll just paste these in here, and we'll say, and this is what we call just keyword searching, which can be a very powerful thing, especially if you don't know what you're looking for. But you do have to be very careful with doing it because it is very, very process intensive, resource intensive to do this search. So we can just do this. And what it's doing is that it's looking for this string. So in programming, we have the idea of a string or an integer. An integer is a number, right? A string is human readable words, because numbers could be a string if it's in quotes, but it's anything, right? All these things in here could be searched as strings, which is what we're doing. So it's just words, right? So like it could be a whole sentence, it could be a name. It's just searching for this word or this thing somewhere in here. So we could search, for instance, this as a string. We could search this as a string, or we could search it as an integer. We could search this as a string too. So it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be like a real word. It doesn't have to be a full sentence. It's literally any letters and numbers that you just want to search. And kind of the idea here is that we're saying, hey, I want to look at this log, right? This is a log. This is all the data coming in from the log. And I'm just saying, hey, I want you to search everywhere in every log in March for these 3 words. I need at least one of them to show up. That's what the OR does. One of the 3 has to be in the log. And we can see that Chris shows up right here in the log. And if we go through all of these, we'll see that at least one of them shows up. And we do see a host name syntax here now. So we actually have a couple of answers. One, we found a bunch of logs, and we have identified how they're talking about host names here. So we could do another search now and say, hey, HR underscore star wildcard, right? Give us all the logs for every host that begins with HR. We could do that. So hopefully that makes sense what a string is. We're just searching anywhere in this log for this, what we're putting in here. Okay, anything in there. And very powerful, like I said, but again, it's searching everywhere. What we really want to do, if we can, is we could have done this in a specific field. So we could say username Chris star or Haroon star. So we could do that, right? We could say, make it a little bit more powerful. We do have to make sure that we are very case sensitive, like this, right? Case sensitive means if we use a lowercase in here, it's not going to find the field. Field names are case sensitive, meaning we have to capitalize it exactly how the sim sees it. So it's very, very, very important that we do that. Now we have to do this to the rest, or these are just standard string searches. So we'll do this, and I'm just fix it in a second with these quotes. And so we know the usernames aren't just Haroon, Chris, and Diana. They're that plus something else. So we do need to do a wildcard here. So if we do this, we should get the same answer, right? We were just more specific, and we're checking a specific field. Now, there could have been logs where they showed up in a different field. It could have showed up in process name maybe, or command line right here. This one doesn't have anything, but hopefully that makes sense, right? Fields are your friend in Splunk. Fields, strings, syntax, these are all friends for you. Looks like we had some comments in Discord. Okay, cool. He's going to come back and look at this. Perfect. Let me look at his comment one more time and see what he said. Let's see. Since I finished the incident handling with Splunk recently, at times it assumes you know certain red flags from searches, and it'd be nice to get your thought process aside from spamming AI. Cool. Yep, we got you. Okay, cool. So that's how we utilize these fields here. Now let's pivot our search because maybe there are events where none of these users are involved, but it is a host that is HR. So they could be different things, right? Just because Diana and them are users in HR doesn't mean they're the only users in HR, right? We have system users, so NC Authority system, local administrator. There are a bunch of other users that are on these IT systems that we do have to account for. So what I'm going to do, and this is a fun trick for folks, is I'm just going to duplicate tab. So whenever I'm pivoting off of my searches, I'll always maintain the original search so I can go back and look at it and it's there for me. And then, or if I'm doing a write-up or I'm sharing it with other folks, I can share it with a share button. So like in a real corporate environment, we can just share the search and someone can open it up exactly like you have it. And this is actually fantastic for searches that are super resource intensive. You don't want 20 or 30 analysts running the same resource intensive search. You want it to run once and then everyone to view it. So that's why. That's it. That's another fun thing here. All right, so let's go and check out these host names. Let's construct this. So let's do a new search. So right here, I'll take this SPath off. So this is saying, hey, host name is HR_02. But remember, and I have the hiccups now. Oh man, we want all hosts in HR. So we had 1611 events. Now we have 4797 events. So quite a bit more here. Quite a bit more. And Mr. Davila, when you do watch this later, after you're done with your travels, hopefully you travel safely, feel free to hit me up, DM me, or even better, chat in our Discord community so other folks can learn and get in on the discussion as well. And happy to answer any follow-up questions you may have. All right, so wow. So we have two different results here. We have, if we just search the users, we only get 2267. But if we search the HR host names, we get almost double or more than double. More than double. My math is tough at the end of the day. Now the question is, what do we do now? We've identified all the logs for the host. We've identified all the logs for the user. Now, how do we find bad with all this stuff? That is a very good question. Let's see what else they have going on here. So imposter alert, there seems to be an imposter account observed in the logs. What is the name of that user? So really, they haven't given us a ton to go off of. So this would be really tough as an investigation in the real world. You have billions and trillions of logs. How are you just supposed to look this up? It would take quite a bit of time. Typically, we have alerts that trigger these types of things as a starting point. So it would have given you a user and a host name and all that. But really, we're starting from scratch. We just have this vague idea that it's HR, something's going on in HR. Someone sent them a malicious resume with macros or something in it, right? So yeah, it's tough. So what we can do, and because we're looking for a misspelled username, our initial search really won't work, right? We're looking for these specifically, unless they created the user. But what we do have is every event in HR, and we may be able to identify users that look goofy by just looking at a list of all the usernames. So what we can do is that we can do a stats and count by username. And what this is going to do, there's a couple of really good search functions you can use. Stats basically deduplicates everything and shows you how many of each one of those there are. The other one is table, where it tables out everything, where you say, hey, I want to see all these fields, and that's it. And we can do both in a second. So this is a stats count by user. And if we look at this, we should see every user that has shown up in the username field. So this should be about the only place they're going to show up, should. And if we look through these, we can see that they're pretty normal. Haroon, System, Moen, Katrina, James, Diana, Chris Ford, and then we have Amila. and there's a 1, and this is like hacker speak stuff. So we can say, hey, there's only one of these events. This is pretty suspect, right? So we can say, hey, this is the answer to that one. It's an imposter account. Now, before we move on, what we do want to look at is we want to look at all of these things that this user has done. And this is where we'll use table at. So we're going to duplicate the tab. We're going to leave that alone because it has one of our answers. And what we're going to do is we're just going to filter on this person. See what we get. What kind of event do we get? So Amila, all she did, I'm going to say that's a girl name, is who am I? The classic hacker. They get assists and they say, who am I? That's all they did. That's it. That is the only event that we have for them. However, if we think about logically, the account has to have been created somewhere. And this is where the username could show up in somewhere like the command line field. It could show up here somewhere. So what we can do is we have this one. We can leave that alone. We're going to duplicate again. I know. Bear with me. And I definitely encourage you to play along. What we can do is do that magical thing where we do a string search for this user. Now, remember, when we string search, it looks for it everywhere in the log, not just a specific field, everywhere. And we may or may not get more events. In this case, we didn't get any, but this is something we very much should have done. So we've gotten one. Sad face. But this is one of those classic pivots in incident response that we should be doing, is that whenever we have a lead, we want to follow that lead all the way down the rabbit hole. So in this case, hey, we have a suspicious user. Next question is, what did they do? What did they do? Who created it? And we can answer that question by simply just searching for that. We can see what they did by doing exactly what we did, which is find all the events with this person as a user, right? So because the events are going to be tied directly to that user. Who did this? We would just do a search like this to see if there was a user creation activity, so like net user or something like that with this user. In this case, there isn't one, which is bizarre to me, but these are try hack me boxes. We would see this somewhere typically. So hopefully that helps answer that question. So another question here, which user from the HR department was observed to be running scheduled tasks? So we can look at this one here. So let's see, what do we want to do? I wanted to show you something with table, but with one event, it's not going to work well. So we could probably do that with Chris in a second. So let's go ahead and get rid of these. I don't think we're going to need them anymore. But we may want to utilize one of these. We'll do this one. So let's do a string search for task or something like that, because I don't know how it's going to surface. As in, like, what does the schedule task look like? There's quite a few ways that someone could be running schedule tasks. So when I say surface, that's what I mean. How does it show in our event logs, right? How does it come through? Tasks would be one of them. And I'm trying to think what else. What other things? We have scheduled tasks. We have services. It could be a service. Just depends on what they mean by it, really. So here's a fun one that we could do. Another one. This could be where we do tasks, but there are way too many tasks here. What we could do, it says which user. So we know it's not this user. We have lots and lots of stuff here. What we could do is look at these. There's about 2,200 of them. So what we can do is duplicate this one, and let's table some stuff. Let's table, actually, let's do a stats count by, but what we'll do is do it kind of table-y. So we'll say count by username, and then we'll do command line. And this should give us something. Stats, count by, username. Maybe I got to do a comma. Ah, there we go. All right. So what this did was essentially I wanted to eliminate duplicates where they would be doing the same thing over and over in the hopes that this would limit the amount of logs we have to look at. And guess what? It took us down from 2,200 events down to 48 by doing this. Now, this isn't a super accurate way to do this, but like you couldn't just use this in your report. This would be a search that we would pivot from, which we will be. But it does give you a chance to quickly kind of distill all that information coming through down to the important stuff where we can start making or get info so we can make other decisions later. So in this case, we can easily scan 48 logs and make a determination versus scanning 2,200 logs. So that's what we're going to do here. So in this case too, we can see how many counts there are. So there are 941 events where there's no command line for Chris, which is crazy, right? Then we have a lot of these are duplicates. Look at this one. So Haroon has 921. So it really did limit a lot of the stuff that we have. So now we're here looking for scheduled tasks. This is one of them, right? Create TN. So this is the name, task name. And this is what's running. So this is Chris's, and it's doing it on start. So that's one. Let's see if there are any other ones. Let's see, he's pulling down something that says benign. Let's see what else. A lot of PowerPoint presentations. Oh, okay, cool. So Haroon did something weird, and so did Chris. But Chris is for sure the one that did a scheduled task. Now, the other thing we may want to look at, and the reason why we want to look at this is that we looked at the command line, but we didn't see what the process name is. So I'm going to adjust this so we see what program is actually running, and that will fill in some of the blanks. Because what we're seeing here are just the arguments in the command line, which is okay. But let's add in process name. And this will make life a little bit easier for us. So something broke. Ah, it says 237 because some of these have blanks, so they're not broken up as many. So what we're looking for, and we could have just specifically drilled into it, is we could have looked for that one specific one from Chris, which is, we should be able to find it pretty quick in here, unless I already skipped over it. I may have. I spin too quick. I missed stuff. No, here it is. So you can see scheduled tasks. I did do a tasks, I thought, and we didn't pick it up. But so this is scheduled tasks, which is what we would expect to see for something being scheduled. And then these are the arguments for that. So that is the answer to the other question. And this is pretty classic hacker stuff here, where the methodology is, hey, I need some sort of persistence, and that persistence has to be able to survive a reboot, and we have that right here. Now, the other thing I want folks to start doing is, if you don't know what stuff is, right? Maybe this was hard for you to come across, right? Maybe it doesn't stand out to you like it does to me. Or maybe you don't understand what you're seeing when you look it up. What we can do is take this, we can look at schedule tasks, we can look it up in Google and say, what is this? And Google's going to have an answer, and it will explain it to us. It'll break it down, which is something you very much should be doing. If you don't understand what you're looking at, you need to Google it. You need to ask chat, what's going on here? This says create a new scheduled task. Here's your task name. So all the stuff I said tells it the task to run. So this file. So also, by the way, immediately, this is going to be on our hit list. We need to go pull this file and take a peek at it. And we also need to see if it's ever run before, because they may have restarted the system between now and then. So we'll write that down as a next step in a second. And then it says every time the computer starts, that's what sc/sc on start does. So very, very important stuff here. Man, y'all are awfully, awfully quiet tonight. What's going on, chat? What is going on? Y'all were all in last week. You know, no one wants to do this. They just want to do resumes. This is the fun stuff, though. Resume stuff's boring, people. It's all about learning the trade, learning the craft here. All right, so let's see which one of these is the thing we need to look at. So that's what we're looking at here. So let me show you how I would have pivoted otherwise. Like if I didn't want to look through all that, how would Mike have done that? So we'll go back here. We'll do it by this. Remember, we're back here. So we're back to our starting point where we saw it. So we would say, we would drill down here. We would say, hey, I just want to see stuff from Chris. So we're going to get rid of all this stuff, right? Where we want less data. The more data we can filter out, the better. And then we want to table. And then we want to table time. Actually, it's underscore time, folks. Underscore time. Username, command line. We also want process name. Case sensitive, remember that. And this should give us some stuff. Too much stuff. Oops. So one of the things we can do is we can do another keyword search here. We'll do a star. There we go. So this will bring this up, and what we can do is we can do what's called like a look around, a temporal search. So if you want a fancy buzzword to put in your back pocket for an interview, temporal searching, that's what this is. We're going to look around time to see what occurred. And this is a very, very normal activity during an investigation here. So we'll duplicate this tab, and then we'll click this and we'll say view events. Actually, not that one. We want this. We need to change to verbose mode. So real quick, there's a couple of different modes here. Verbose mode gives you everything. These other modes, smart mode only gives you the things you ask for, but verbose mode will always give you everything. But what we want to do is we want to look at this maybe 5 minutes around. So 5 minutes before, 5 minutes after, and we're going to take away this specific thing now because I want to see all the events. What led up to this guy creating a scheduled task? And we actually don't see a ton here. We don't really see a lot for Chris, which is very, very interesting. Why don't we see anything for Chris? These are the questions I am asking myself. So I would continue to adjust until things make sense to me. So looking at this is reverse order, folks. So we do see this is the stuff that happens first and then this stuff. So I don't really see anything. And if I remember correctly, this isn't done in a realistic way. Sorry, creator of this box. It is a good box, but it's not super realistic. But if it was, what we would expect to see is that we would expect to see, sorry, let me get back here. We'd expect to see a buildup to this attack. So if I went back, say 5, 10, 30 minutes, maybe even an hour, we'd expect to see buildup here because that's the attacker methodology, right? You just don't get into a user and just start running commands. It doesn't work like that. You've had to authenticate somehow. You would have had to get control of execution somewhere. You had had to have downloaded your file, right? We see update.exe. That had to come from somewhere. So these activities aren't just magical. They will always flow somewhere, somehow. There's evidence of these activities somewhere, I'm telling you. There are some tricks to obscure it a little bit, but for all intents and purposes, there is evidence to be collected, and we should be able to paint a picture with clear evidence of what happened. The only time we should have a question is when we're still building out the narrative and we're still having educated guesses to help drive our investigation. That should be the only time things are unclear. By the end of this investigation, everything should have an answer. How did they get on? What did they get? What did they do? What users were compromised? What hosts were compromised? All those things. What areas of persistence were there? All these things should be answered before you wrap up an investigation, because if they're not, they're just going to get right back in. Right. And the idea is we want to get them out. If we identify an attacker, get them out of there. Don't let them back in. That's just the name of the game. That's what makes this game so fun, actually. All right. So what's the next question here? So this answers this question. Next one is, which user from the HR department executed a system process LOL bin to download a payload from a file sharing host? We actually saw this answer when we were looking around earlier, and I know it only because I'm me. I don't know. No, because it stands out to me as a bad guy because I used to use it. Now it doesn't work anymore because it gets caught. But what we can do is get rid of this. We'll go back to stats count by here. And when we scroll through this, we saw Haroon do a certain util. So this is a LOL bin for downloading something. This is how you do it. It gets caught now. It doesn't work. It's not that good of a one. But it used to be the hotness, right? We used to do this all the time. So it's downloading, and let me explain the syntax to you. So it is cert util is utility, and this is saying, hey, go to this web page and pull this thing down. So E4D11035, and then name it as benign.exe in the current directory, wherever you're at, wherever the PWD is, so print working directory. Whatever that is, that's where the file is going to go. And that's that, right? It's pretty chill. There's a ton of other ways you can use bits jobs for this. You can use, a lot of folks have seen PowerShell, but this is just a way to get files onto the host. Again, this is part of the attacker methodology, right? We have to have a way to get on the host. We have to have persistence, and we also have to have ways to pull files, get our tools onto the system. This is part of it. So pretty straightforward, pretty easy answer on that one. And the user was Haroon. I don't know if you saw that. Let's bring it up right here. Boom. Easy. All right. So to bypass security controls, which process was used to download it? It was cert util. Pretty easy. What was the date that the binary was executed by the infected host? So so maybe it's asking about that specific file. So if it's asking about this one, what we can do is a keyword search for this file. It should be being done by Haroon on whatever host this is. So we can do what? Pivot our search. We can narrow it down to Haroon. We can then look up benign.exe. And what we can do is table time host, probably a host name. I didn't look to see what the syntax was. It's probably host name. Let's see. Yep. Camel cased host name. Beautiful. And right here. And so we should see, we'll do process name as well. So this is it. So we should see benign.exe somewhere. We don't really see it. Let's just do open search. We don't see it anywhere. So I'm not sure what they're talking about using here. Let's see. What was the date that this binary was executed by the infected host? These are kind of a little out of order, aren't they? So we have, or maybe I'm just reading wrong. So which user executed a system process to download? So that's cert util. That's cert util. So Haroon did it with cert util. What was the date? So maybe that's where it wanted the time. 3-4. Okay. So that's that answer. And then which third-party site was accessed to download the payload? So that would be Control C. So that would be that as well. Pretty easy. And then what is the name of the file that was saved to the host? We already saw that. That was pretty straightforward. That's the last thing here. And then the suspicious file downloaded from C2 server contained malicious content with the pattern. What is the pattern? Oh, I think this is the one where they actually, I remember this. They wanted you to go out to the site and look at it, which most of the time you wouldn't do that. Some people might get froggy and do that. We could take this like this and we could go look in virus total. Building bad practices. That's what this is doing. You know how many people on red teams get so pissed that people will like, oh, I wonder if this has been seen before, and you drop it into virus total and then you just like burn all their work. Red teams hate it, people. They hate it, absolutely hate it. But it's funny. So right here, so here it is in the description. So this is what they're looking for. So yeah, if you don't know virus total either, virus total is pretty much the universal tool that you look for hashes, get information, maybe about file names, URLs like we did here. It's pretty standard. A lot of researchers use it. A lot of really, really good information here. So if you haven't played with it, give it a whirl. It's pretty cool. And it does a lot of really good stuff for you. So we could have looked up the file hash. So if it was executed, I don't think it was. But yeah, really, really good stuff. If you're in Try Hack Me doing stuff, you're going to use virus total a lot. Which is good because in the real world, you're going to use it a lot. So things like, hey, I wonder if this is the legitimate version of the file or something implanted. Hash, look it up. Oh, nope, it's signed by Microsoft. It's good to go. That's kind of how it goes. Okay, so that actually answers all of these questions. We pasted that in there to look it up. We got this THM flag. We are done with this host. So hopefully folks got a little bit out of this exposure. Hopefully, Villa, this answered some questions. I try to make sure I talk through my mindset and what we would normally do. I need to find a really, really good one of these that has great data. Maybe we do Boss of the Sock. Boss of the Sock usually has good stuff. And we can walk through a real investigation. This wasn't the best of one, but it's good enough to be able to work some of your Splunk foo. So good stuff. All right. So if you're just joining us, say hi in chat. Hello. I see a couple of new people popped in. Say hello. We are about to jump into looking at someone's resume. We have another resume to do today. So let me know if you have trouble seeing it. If you have any questions, right? Some things may make sense for you to ask, right? Hey, I'm doing the same thing. What do you think about this, Mike? So don't be afraid to ask questions. I do these publicly, not because I want to publicly shame anyone. There's no shame in the game, as they say, but because I want the lessons to propagate to more people, right? I could do these one-on-one and give all these people feedback, spend 20 minutes with them and help one person, or I can spend 20 minutes on this on a live stream that I record on YouTube, and I can help many, many more people in the future. My audience isn't that big, but I can help more people, right, than just single you, because so many people are doing a lot of the same things with their resume. So this stuff can definitely help more than just this one person. So I know this person is traveling, I believe, today, but thank you for sending this in. This is a member of our Discord community. So with that, we'll do a shameless plug. If you want me to review your resume live, go ahead and chat, or not chat. Well, you could do it in chat, but go over to the Discord channel, drop it in over there, or send it to me via email. Just remove whatever sensitive information you have in there because it will be seen by people across the interwebs. So take care of that. But yeah, send it on over. We'll add one or two at the end of our different live streams. And you can feel free to follow up with additional questions or have me take a second peek at it after you make changes. All right. Without further ado, let's dive in and give this person some really, really good feedback here. All right. So we have a master's in managed information systems. Cool. Bachelor's of Science in Management Information Systems. So present. So it looks like they're still working on their master's. Started in August, so last year. So not bad. There's a lot of people looking at doing master's degrees. For those of you who kind of don't know where you should stop at, I know my cousin's one of them. She might be on here right now. What's up, cuz? Uh, bachelor's is good. And it's a good stopping point for most people because this gets you into a lot more doors than not having one. So, for instance, like my current role, we're not allowed to hire anybody with zero experience without a degree. So, you have to have a degree or you have to have experience. So, it does open up more doors for you. A lot of people shame the education world. Totally fair, totally get it, all the stuff about debt. But there are still a lot of places that require it. Neither you nor I can make a difference there. They're going to keep asking for it because, there's HR things, right? There's HR things. So a bachelor's is a really good place to stop though. Hey, she just said hi in chat. So master's is great too. A master's can be good, especially for those looking to do leadership positions. A lot of times once you start getting up to that lead position and above, this will help you look more competitive. This with a CSSP, so CISSP, CISSP, CISSP could make you very competitive as a lead, a director plus, okay? Don't need it out the gate, you don't. But as you mature, as you grow in your career, it could be a good option. Okay, just saying. I also know a lot of directors and stuff without them, but I also know a lot with them. So just take that with a grain of salt there. Now, let's keep chugging here. We have one thing to notice is they place it at top. They're saying, hey, this is my biggest argument for why I should get the job is these items. That's what they're saying when they do this way. They also didn't want to do an executive summary or a summary of any sort, which is fair. Not everyone likes to do that. I love them when they're done correctly. You got to do them correctly, spend some time. ChatGPT, very powerful tool to make this work. One of the prompts I've been doing, because I'm in the job market myself too, my contract's rolling up, is that I say, hey, I want this to knock their socks off. I want this to wow them. And I give it a master resume. So it has a huge resume of every major thing I've done. And then it picks out the key items and it matches it, and also give it the job listing, and it matches it there. And then I keep tweaking until I'm like, I'd hire this guy, right? That's what I would do if I were you. I would make a crazy good summary working with AI. You don't want to sound dumb, but you should want it to be a showstopper, right? They should be like, oh, wow, yeah, I can vibe with this person. I think they're going to be a good fit. And yes, you can do that without any experience. You can do that with your labs, your certifications, show that passion. That is a showstopper. Your labs, not just your labs, the projects that you're going to be doing, right? We're going to be doing projects soon, right, folks? So these are all things that can be showstoppers. Now, there are technical skills. We have a lot here, and we have a lot that may not make sense for most people. What I would do with these technical skills, and I've seen this with almost every resume that comes to me, is that you do just kind of like a smattering of buzzwords here. Cool, I get it. I'm also don't have a specific JD, so maybe I'll come up with a fake like SOC analyst role job description that you would tune your resume for. Maybe we'll do something like that. But anyways, don't list the stuff if they don't care. That's where I'm going with this whole segue here. You want your technical skills to line up with that job description. What do they care about? So if they say Asterix or Okta, cool, put it in there. But if they don't talk about that, don't put that in there unless it is a similar tool to something they're asking for. So like I'm trying to think of a good answer, like good thing. So like maybe if they say I'm looking like you're applying for a vulnerability remediation team or something like that, right? Just doing something vague, or actually no, SOC analyst role. Like so, they're asking for CrowdStrike Next Gen SIEM, but you just have Splunk or Elastic experience. Put Splunk or Elastic in here. It makes sense. They're tools that are similar. They're showing that you understand how they work and all that. That makes sense. But if you're putting a bunch of stuff in here that they don't even know what it is, like I don't know what most of this stuff is, they don't care. That's my point. You're wasting space. They don't care. And you're taking their eyes away from the stuff that they do care about. And you're kind of diluting your resume in a sense, if that makes sense to folks. I've heard you're not supposed to say that when you're public speaking. Oh, well, I said it. So something there. So we do have some security tools here. We have different stuff here. I would just fine tune this. So that would be my suggestion here is I would suggest an executive summary and wow them with it. I would suggest tuning these technical skills to these specific job descriptions you're doing or you're applying to. And then, so these are technical skills. These are just skills. I would be careful breaking these out into two sections. And the reason why I would be careful there is that it may jack up the ATS system. So these are the systems that are parsing your resumes when they come through. You may jack them up by having two separate sections. So I may just do like a skills section and have like soft skills or leadership or something like that, and just have a bullet, like just like you did here with others programming, just put those in there. I will tell you for the most part, technical or soft skills aren't as heavily weighted. So they really don't need a separate section, just throw them in there, and you don't have that many of them. So they're just really helping you match, keyword match for the most part, I would say. Certifications. I would do a little bit better job of making these stand out. So I would do one per line here. I don't know I don't know what this one is or this one. I imagine there's specific vendor certifications, but I would do one per line. I wouldn't be stingy with your space here. These are the things that are going to draw their eyes. They want to see what type of certifications you have. You have a couple like, so for a SOC role, your Sentinel-1 in Protection 1 may be something they'll look at, and then the Google Cybersecurity Professional Cert would be something that they would pay attention to as well. These other ones, they probably don't care about, but you should put them in there anyways. I just would put them at the bottom. I would put the primary ones at the top, right? We're talking about like a newspaper. You want to put the important stuff at the top, above the fold, all that fun stuff. Cool. All right, so projects here. So conducted penetration testing using Nmap, Wireshark, Nessus, Metasploit, John the Ripper, and identified network and network and web vulnerabilities. It's pretty soft. Build a phishing URL detection model in Python using featured selection. So these would be good cases where you provide the report from your pen test, you provide a link to your Git repo for your phishing tool, ran risk assessments about cyber criminals. This does not read very professional. So bullet number 3, make that better. Privileged insiders using fair U and ran risk assessment about cyber criminals and privileged insiders using fair U. I have no idea what you're saying there, actually. I don't know what fair U is. Created VM using vSphere web client configured Active Directory with user permissions. If this is a SOC thing, no one cares about that one. Utilize Wireshark to capture and analyze these. This is a very, very weak bullet. For me, I think you just opened Wireshark, you clicked record and then turned it off. It doesn't say a lot about the skill that you gained. I would maybe, there's a bunch of sample captures from like ransomware groups and specific threat actors out there. Maybe having a report on analyzing those as specific examples would be a much better one than this. And then put it in your GitHub portfolio. That would be a much more powerful bullet than that one. That one doesn't show a lot of skill. And that's what we want to do with these projects is we want to show skill. Not that you just played with a tool, which is what happens a lot in the educational world. You touch it real quick and then you move on. Um, we projects are long term. There's a difference between a lab and a project, and I said this a few streams back. A lab is you spent maybe an hour doing something. It just shows familiarization. A project is long term. We're talking about weeks of working something, and in those weeks, you are learning a ton, right? So it's the difference between um, maybe going to change your windshield wipers on a car and then rebuilding an old hot rod or fancy old school car. You're learning way more on that project car versus doing the lab thing, which is just replace windshield wipers. One showing a greater learning adventure versus the other one. And that's what we need to convey. If we're going to list projects, they need to be cool. They need to show a large kind of like hockey stick growth pattern in your capability. If you've ever heard that hockey stick growth, that's what they look for in like startups or whatever. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Created IAM and user static website, CloudFront. Not that great of a bullet. They probably don't care about that stuff either. Not being in a SOC, implemented Python to create an HTTP server client and client using PyCharm. That's not that cool for a SOC either. So a lot of these bullets aren't that great. So to summarize your projects, do a report for your pen test. If you did a real pen test, do a report. If you like that side, do reports on the like try hack me or hack the box challenges that you do a full pen test report on that. That would be a good lab for you. Do a Git repo link for your URL detection module. For the Wireshark stuff, maybe choose something from real world and do actual maybe threat intel or hunt report on those things. Those are things that are going to get you points versus these are not going to be strong arguments for skills, right? That's what projects are supposed to be, strong arguments for why you have obtained the skill. So there's that. Let's see, no questions in chats. KL Small said great points. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so we have some experience here, just a couple of pieces. So Workato, that sounds like a fun name. Designing and building 5 AI-powered skills in Agent Studio, enabling customers to automate business processes. So I would talk more about the skills. So I will say almost everyone is looking for people with AI skills. So this, believe it or not, is actually a really strong bullet. If it's true, I would talk more about what you did with this skill. So enable customers to automate business processes, maybe the specific type of model. I'm sure it's not Workato. I'm sure there is a maybe Claude or Codex or something. If you can mention that, that would strengthen it. Let's see, testing and evaluating MCP server integrations. That's a really cool one. These bullets actually aren't too bad. Collaborating with engineering product teams on automation improvements and AI integration initiatives, helping streamline internal testing and workflow development processes. If you can add a time on that last bullet, like how much time did you save in either one of those, so either the internal testing or your deployment process, that would improve those significantly as well. So these actually aren't that bad. Good job on those. Let's see, MIS Advanced Consulting Project. So we have a project on here that ran from January to May, enforces secure data handling practices by verifying BitLocker was enabled across team members' devices, served as compliance manager, ensuring all deliverables. So I'm confused. Is this part of the same thing or not? Or is this a work project? I don't actually know. It is after, so your times are out of order here. So you have stuff from 2026 below something from 2025. Oh, I see why, because that's present. Okay. I feel like this is a school project. I wouldn't put school projects in here if this is indeed a school project. If it's contracting, I'd put contracting there beside it. But if this is legitimately a project, it needs to go up into your projects. Get it off of your job experience. This is job experience section, folks. So this is you being paid for your work doing this type of stuff. That's what goes here. So we have Workato Inc., security operations intern, monitor triage 2050 sim, alerts weekly, resolving tier 1 incidents, documenting response actions, workflow, reducing escalation workflow by 15%, design 5+ Sigma dashboards leveraging security data, enabling the security team to track issue trends and improve decision-making efficiency, prep time by 30%. So see here, they're giving like the win, right? So what? So how does this help? Here's the percentage in growth. The funny part about a lot of this is that a lot of these percentiles are made up for the most part. That would be they just are. It's hard to tell unless you're legitimately pulling metrics. They're probably made up, which is fine. Conducted QA testing of 100+ enterprise search queries in Workato Geo, providing structured feedback and improved search results accuracy by 20%. I would be more specific about that one. I don't know what you mean by QA testing enterprise search queries. So I would clarify that for sure. Last bullet here, build an automated Genie notification system that flagged vulnerabilities from external sources in real time, reducing detection to response lag by 10%. So this last one sounds great. I would be more specific on how this works. So flag vulnerabilities from external sources. So what do you mean by that? Are you flagging them in dependencies, in, libraries that you're utilizing, or in different software that you have in there, like vendors that you have? And so how is this working? And if you explain that a little bit better, it'll be a lot more powerful for sure. So the other top two ones aren't too bad. I think you can improve them a little bit more. Monitored and triage about, I would just say triage 20 to 50 sim alerts weekly, resolving tier 1 incidents. And I would instead of resolving, like responsible for resolving tier 1 incidents and documenting response actions, reducing escalation workload. And I would explain what you mean by that last part. Reducing escalation workload by 50%. What does that mean? You don't escalate as much as other people, or what? But I would say in summary, and this is a problem that a lot of folks have, is that they have these super vague bullets here, and it's not doing you damage, but it's not doing you as much of a favor as it could be, right? If we're doing a little bit better in documenting the so what of this bullet, you'd be getting a lot more attention for sure. Easy way to resolve this for anyone else with this problem where they're just vague, they're very old school, is talk with your chosen AI and say, hey, I want to make this bullet more powerful. Ask me any questions that you need to, or something to that degree. Just having it ask you questions to clarify what you mean by this bullet, and then it will rewrite it for you. That is way more powerful than a lot of people give it credit for. So just think about that. So we have a comment in here: short how statements would help the metrics across the board. Short how. Yeah. So the so what, the how, same flavor there. You just, you want to explain why it's important, right? It's saying like, hey, I'm trying to think of something fun I did. I closed out 100 alerts. So what? Who cares, right? That's your job. What did you do? I closed out 100 alerts that were false positive, and were able to help work with detection engineering to decrease, the amount of alerts coming in by like 10% because of those that were well documented, something like that, right? The so what? Yeah, you close them out, then you worked with someone else to improve the quality of life for all your other SOC analysts, right? So that's a more powerful way to say that stuff. So with that, folks, we're done. That's it. That is it for tonight. We have a resume. If you have a resume, send it on over. There's an email in the YouTube channel. or you can send me a DM wherever you're watching me from. So some folks on LinkedIn maybe watch me as well tonight. So send me your resume. Tell me what role you want to look at, and I can bring it up here. We also have once a month, we are also going to be doing a, what do they call it? Makeover. So a SOC analyst makeover. So if you want a full makeover where I will spend time with you to work on whatever you need to work on. So whether that's interviewing skills, or you want us to work on your resume for you, or you want me to work through a lab with you, there is a link that you can fill out and you can apply to be part of that work. The makeover, I keep forgetting the word that I chose for it, and we can help you kind of up your game and get you more marketable, whatever that looks like for you. With that being said, we are here every Thursday starting at 7 Eastern time, and we are here for 1 to 2 hours, but you can check the event calendar in the Discord community. Speaking of, if you're not a member of the Discord community, do yourself a favor. Come over to the Discord community, say hello, let us help you in your journey to become a cybersecurity professional. With that, good night, everyone. Have a great week. Let me know in the comments and in the Discord channel what your wins were for this week so that we can help celebrate with you. Take care, everyone. See you.